Recording in progress. Test one, checking one. One, one, one. Test.
Welcome to the Rotary Club of Fort Worth. It's great to see everybody. We have our invocation will be given by Jason Ellis, Banking Center President, Commercial Lending, Susser Bank, followed by the National Anthem played by Harriet Harrell, Principal, the Harrell Group.
I have a full 2 minutes. Bow your heads with me. Thank you for the opportunity to share lunch with friends. What a blessing it is to gather and share our lives with others. Thank you for the servant hearts that grace this room. May we all continue to be a blessing to one another. Help us to strive to love our neighbors as we love ourselves. We ask that you bless Rotary's efforts to positively impact our neighbors in this community and around the world. Bless this food to the nourishment of our bodies and bless the many hands that have served it. Amen.
All right, play ball. You may be seated. All right, next up, we welcome to the stage Ed McLinn, Managing Director, Larkin Addison, to welcome our visiting guests.
Thank you, President. Ryan Jodish from Modesto, California.
May I look down the back of the leg? It is on YouTube if you want to see a reaction. And now for our four-way test, which leads us in the days we do seconds. You'll with me. Number one, is it the truth? Number two, is it good morning?
Tarleton State University to the stage to give our newscast. Mark. And he did threaten not to show up.
What was it the pastor told me, I don't know, the last time I attended church, it was 97. He said, for your prayer, be brief, brother, be brief. So I've got 24 minutes of remarks followed by, sorry, that one's old. Good afternoon, though. Welcome to The Scoop from Rotary Club of Fort Worth. I'm Mark Maurer, your host, and it's rodeo time in Fort Worth. Our first story out the chute. CVS, Walgreens, and community health centers across the country will begin receiving 400 million N95 masks made available from the government stockpile next week. In a rare instance of federal government giving anything back of substance to the population free of charge, the mask will be available, again, no charge, at numerous locations across the country. White House Press Secretary Jen Psaki, did I say that right? Laid out the plan for mask distribution, acknowledging the irony of needing to wear the mask into the location to get the mask that you're fixing to get for free. We will be modeling our distribution rollout model, Jen said, kind of on a Halloween presence. We're going to put a bunch of little masks in a bowl and put a sign up front and say, everybody take one. You know how well that works. But wait, act now and you can get your free COVID virus test through the mail at USPs. Not enough? Wait, you can get 2 by acting quickly. Still not enough? Get 4 free COVID tests by emailing the US Postal Service, something and something, just like the ones that weren't available last month at the same CVS as you'll be going to in the first place. The free handouts come just in time for President Biden and Starbucks to capitalize on their plummeting popularity rankings. The coffee brewing behemoth just earlier this week took the opportunity to abolish their vaccination mandate, a bold announcement for the franchises looking to get workers to come back in 2022, maybe receive some of their workforce back in 2023. Sorry if any of you are baristas. Earlier this week, suggesting that it's not you, it's me. TCU broke up with the University of Texas Health Science Center. Now, the collaborative effort between a DO and an MD school was effectively ended. Sorry, I can't read all this. When the TCU passed a note during lunch period saying, "Hey, it's just kind of like Chicago. Everybody needs a little time away, right?" Besides, patients would probably rather be treated by a doctor from a Power 5 conference. Okay, don't worry though. Undeterred, UNT Health Science Center vowed to remain competitive with the osteopathic program by recruiting aggressively and pursuing the transfer portal. Just yesterday, the Health Science Center picked up a commitment from the number 9 nursing student in the country, a 6'5" med tech currently enrolled at nearby Weatherford Community College. So things are looking up all over. In sports, get on out to Stephenville this week, where your Tarleton Texans are taking on the Seattle University Redhawks. That was a new one to me. Free tickets can be available by, checking with me after the game, right? So I had to get a plug in since my boss is sitting back there. Pardon me? Hey, look, you want to try after the game? Yeah. I knew I should have been drinking sooner. Yeah. Welcome to the Peanut Gallery. And finally, being brief, on your grocery store run this weekend, when you pass the ground beef section, throw up a Super Sky Point in memory of Michael Lee Aday. You knew him as Meatloaf, and he spoke to us in the big picture when he said, a lot like this newscast, "Hey, 2 out of 3 ain't bad." That's a scoop, and like a bat out of hell for Meatloaf, I'm out of here. Thanks.
Thank you, Mark. And now for a first reading and 2 second readings, we welcome our Secretary, Rebecca Montgomery, Principal Montgomery, GR.
Thank you, Madam President. Good afternoon, everyone. And Mark, good job. Good job. You're still here. Today we have 1 first reading. The proposed member is Fred Rouse III, classification engineering, electrical. Fred is a senior systems administrator with Endurance Capital Management. His proposer is President Courtney Lewis. If no written objections are received in the Rotary office by January 28th, this proposal will be given second readings and voted on by the club. We also have 2 second readings today. The following proposed new members were submitted during the January 14th program. If no objections are received through the voting process, then the proposed members will be accepted into our club. First second reading, Chauncey Bogan, classification, transportation. Chauncey is happily retired. His proposer, President Courtney Lewis. I move his election subject to attending a new member Rotary information session.
I heard a first and a second. All in favor? All right, the ayes have it, and he is hereby elected. Welcome to Chauncey.
Our second reading is Estrus Tucker, classification, business service, human relations. Estrus is the president, CEO, and co-founder of DEI Consultants, LLC. His proposer is Carlo Capio. I move his election subject to attending a new member Rotary information session.
All in favor? All right, he is hereby elected, and welcome. And I will remind you that, every member can propose new members, and we do have a goal to get to 300 by the end of the year, so keep them coming. And now we have a new member introduction. I welcome to the stage Ekua Anonfu with her new member.
Hi, everyone. Dr. Lynn Griffin is an optometrist and owner of Griffin Eye Care in Fort Worth. Lynn is a graduate of Northeastern State University and has been practicing optometry for 22 years. I know she looks young, but yeah. She's a proud alumna of OU, Oklahoma University, which she really wanted everyone to know, just in case there are any fans out here. Lynn first came to the US from Vietnam at age 14. And of all the places that they could live, her parents actually picked Broken Arrow in Oklahoma. She hails from a rice farming community in Vietnam, didn't speak a word of English, and she lives in Broken Arrow. Unfortunately for her, at that time, there weren't any ESL classes. So Lynn was forced to teach herself English by translating books like Charlie Brown. Her teachers didn't even know what to do with her. Finally, in high school, in her freshman year, Lynn could read and write English and was actually getting straight A's. Her father was so impressed with her that she earned $100 for every report card that she brought home, to the tune of thousands of dollars by the time she graduated high school. Later, she used this money to actually furnish her apartment when she went to college. Lynn is the epitome of persistence, perseverance, and her goal is to support and encourage other immigrants to see that the American dream is possible and attainable. On that note, I present to you Dr. Lynn Griffin.
Thank you, Ikwa, for the introduction. I'm not normally a speaker, so I'm kind of nervous, but I was told to share one interesting thing about me, and I'm going to share with you one of my biggest fear is heights. I've been scared all my life. 10 years ago, when I turned 40, I thought, you know what, this is the year I'm gonna face my fear. So I decided to jump out of a plane at 14,000 feet. It was terrifying, but also exhilarating at the same time. Looking back in the last 50 years of my life, I realized that all along I have been a jumper. I jump into unknown opportunity and challenges, personally and professionally. And as Steve Harvey would say, if you do not jump, your parachute will never open. You will be safe, but you will never soar. And I want to soar. So I hope to continue jumping for the next 50 years of my life. Thank you. Welcome. Thank you.
Wow. Well, welcome to our club. We are very proud to have you as a member. And so now I welcome our chairman of the day, past president and former mayor of Fort Worth, Ken Barr, Principal Barr Consulting Group, to the stage to introduce our program. Ken?
Well, thank you, Courtney. It's my pleasure today to introduce our speaker, a man who is president and CEO of what I think is a very important Fort Worth-based company. You know, like me, I think most of you probably know First Command Financial Services from driving down Hewlin Street and seeing their rather imposing corporate campus there. It's impressive. But what you may not know is that it is an important nerve center for an organization that has more than 175 offices located all over the world. And the company provides financial counseling to almost 300,000 clients that are also located all over the world. I'll be perfectly candid with you. For such a significant company to be based here in Fort Worth, and many of us don't know much of anything about First Command, I'm glad that we'll have an opportunity today to see that fact change. I first met Mark Steffi a little more than a year ago when he participated in a program here in Fort Worth called Leader Prime. Leader Prime was created by Harriet Harrell when she ran Leadership Fort Worth. And the purpose of the organization is to engage new CEOs in Fort Worth to recognize the opportunities and obligations they have as leaders in the community. It focuses on people that are new to Fort Worth, that are CEOs, or people that have come up through their organization and assumed the CEO's position in their company. Mark Steffi's career at First Command is impressive. He joined the organization in 2010 as a senior vice president, and his responsibility was to oversee their advisor operations. He steadily moved up to become president and CEO. Among other things that are interesting about Mark is that he's played an important role in creating a much more inclusive culture for the employees and advisors at the company. And as you likely read in the Rotograph this week, for Mark, advancing equity is not just the right thing to do from a business perspective, but it's a personal imperative born from a desire for everyone to have the same opportunities that he's had in his career. So Mark's story, his career, it's impressive. But so is the First Command story. First Command was founded here in Fort Worth in 1958 by retired Lieutenant Colonel Carroll Payne as USPA, the United Services Planning Association. And once he got the company started, he grew it right here in Fort Worth. And interestingly, Colonel Payne was a Rotarian, and in fact, I'm advised that he was president of the Rotary Club of Western Fort Worth. And we're honored today that Carol Payne's son, Chip Payne, is here with us today. Chip, would you stand up so we can recognize you? Chip told me a while ago that he traveled frequently in the early days with his dad, and his dad always wanted to go to the Rotary Club. So Chip started going to Rotary clubs before, I guess before your teenage years even, it sounds like, as a youngster. Okay. I think you're going to be impressed by Mark Steffi's message. First Command is a great company with an equally great mission, supporting our military veterans and families. They have a rich history and work to help build financial security for thousands of military personnel. Given their commitment, it would be interesting to perhaps explore collaborative opportunities for this club as we build on our efforts to support local veterans. Please join me in welcoming Mark Steffi.
Got to start taking a closer look at what they're submitting, because I think my presentation was just done for me. So we need shorter introductions for me. Thank you, first of all, for having me. It's a pleasure to be here, and it's an honor to be able to tell this group the First Command story. As Ken said, I brought Chip along as not only a board member of First Command, but the son of our founder and my resident fact checker as well. So if I'm off base, he'll be the first to stand up and correct me, I'm sure. So just a little bit about who is First Command. We're a small company. We were founded, as Ken said, here in Fort Worth by a retired Lieutenant Colonel in 1958. So we're 64 years old at this point. We're over on South Hewlin. We're an employee-owned company. But as he said, we're still relatively unknown. We're even relatively unknown to a certain extent in the market we serve, in the military market. But I went back and pulled an old Fort Worth business press. It's about a year old, one of the copies from about a year or so ago. And what I found in there is we are actually the third largest private employer in terms of local employees in Fort Worth. We have about 600 home office employees on our campus on South Hewlin. And we're about the 10th largest company in terms of total revenue, private companies. We'll generate somewhere in the neighborhood of $430 million this year from all the advisors around the country, around the world. So small company indeed, but I think pretty decent size for Fort Worth, and trying to get the word out so more people know who we are and what we do. Our primary service, if you had to boil our company down to sort of the one thing, I would tell you we provide financial coaching to military members and their families. And I'm going to show you a little bit about the need for that and how we go about that. Again, just to give you a little bit of a familiarity with that. But I think maybe one of the best ways I can kick that off is by showing you a video. It's about 1.5 minutes long. I think it does a great job of really encapsulating who First Command really is.
We are personal financial coaches serving our nation's military families. Since our founding in 1958, we remain committed to supporting the lifelong financial security of the men and women who serve our country. Our passion is to coach our clients to become financially disciplined and confident. We know the military's benefit structure and retirement programs. We pride ourselves on helping our clients get financially squared away from the start of their military careers to retirement and beyond, at home or during deployment, in times of joy and in times of tragedy. We believe there is no substitute for building a relationship of trust and mutual understanding by meeting face to face. Because many of our advisors are veterans or military spouses themselves, we know from experience that life in the military can be demanding and uncertain. Therefore, we focus on providing proactive service in flexible and convenient ways that best meet the specialized needs of our clients as they evolve. Wherever our clients go, First Command's dedicated team is there for them with the knowledge and attention that they felt at their very first meeting.
All right, so thank you. Thank you. So quick background on Chip's father. Chip was, Carroll Payne was a lieutenant colonel in the Air Force, retired right off of Carswell Air Force Base and started First Command soon after, right here, not on Hewlin, but we had a different office and moved to Hewlin several years ago. Chip tells the story a lot better than I do, but so I'll do my version of it. But there were sort of two major events in Carroll Payne's life that really drove him to found First Command. The first one was when he was serving in the Air Force during World War II on the island of Guam. He was one of the older members of his flight crew, and of the 44 members of the flight crew, 24 were killed in combat in the first few months. And as he would write home to settle the affairs of the deceased crew member, what he would ultimately find is that the vast majority, if not all those families, didn't have enough insurance or investments or savings to continue to live the lifestyle that they were accustomed to. So in addition to this personal tragedy of losing a father, a son, a husband, there was also this corresponding financial tragedy. And a lot of these folks lived on base at the time, so they lost their base housing because they weren't part of the Air Force anymore. They didn't have the money to live off of, and that really had an impact on him. And so then when he came back stateside, it was after World War II, and what he realized in working with a lot of veterans and retirees, that they didn't have enough money to live on in retirement. So what they thought was a great pension when they got out of the military, these were the high inflation days of the late 40s, early 50s, and that pension check started being eaten away with inflation, and they would be running out of money from their pension checks before the end of the month. And so his vow was to do something about that. He didn't think that any person or family that had sacrificed so much for their country should have to suffer through those consequences. And so that's really what drove him to found First Command. And so we're a company that's founded by a military service member for the benefit of military service members and their families. Chip's dad, as Ken mentioned, was actually very active in Rotary. He was on the West Side Rotary Club. He was a member there for over 20 years. He was the president of that chapter in the early 60s. And just not long before his death in 1984, he was actually the recipient of the Paul Harris Fellow Award. So a long connection. That's one of the reasons, many reasons I brought Chip along. And as Ken said, Chip had told me the story about traveling, I think from here all the way up to, I think near Maine. And along that road trip, Carol would stop and make sure that, I think it was, you said Tuesdays at that, back then, Rotary Club meetings were on Tuesdays. And every Tuesday at lunch from a young age, Chip got to start attending his first Rotary meeting. And so a long history and connection to Rotary. And Chip, thank you very much for coming along today as well. A company overview. I thought I'd be able to see the slide from here. I'll try to slide over. We serve about 293 client families. This is the first financial services firm that I've worked for where we talked about the entire family and not the individual clients. So it's about 300,000 client families. If you break that out, it's about 1.3 million individuals that we serve as well. And about 75% of those clients are former military. We have about, just to give you a scope of the business, we oversee about 40 billion in client assets. We've got about 60 billion, or a little over 60 billion of life insurance in force. Our bank, we have First Command Bank, started about 24 years ago, and again, is right there on our campus on South Hewlin. We just crossed $1 billion in assets late last year, and so that the bank is growing well as well. We have about 550 advisors. That's in addition to the roughly 75 district advisors or branch managers that oversee them. They're scattered throughout the country and some overseas. Basically, wherever there's a significant military installation, you'll probably find a First Command office nearby. So in addition to the 600 or so employees we have here in Fort Worth, there's another 550 advisors and 75 district advisors scattered around. And they have about, through their support staff, about another 1,000 or so people that support them.
Our mission statement is coaching those who serve in their pursuit of financial security. I would tell you, I've been in this business for about 30 years. I've worked for a couple of different financial services firms, and it is easily the most mission-driven financial services company that I've had a chance to be a part of. We really work hard, not just the coaching aspect, but to teach them financial behavior. And that's critical. We don't think they're going to be able to learn those things on their own, do it themselves, make 100 number or local advisor. And as we all know, most people don't receive any financial education as their most of us left our own devices and our own mistakes when it comes to finance. Folks in the military are no different. They don't receive any really in-depth financial education either. And as important as it is for us in terms of the stress that people's lives, marriages, etc., it's even more compounded in the military because your career really depends on your finances. Your promotions can be based on your finances. Your security plans can be based on your finances. If your finances are a mess, you become a risk to the military, right? So promotions, security plans, and those things become even more critical. So as important as we all know it is, when you're in the military, that becomes even more important. So kind of back to Carol Payne's mission, that's exactly what we're trying to address. Our vision is lifelong financial security for our nation's military families. So the vision, as we look out, if we're really able to achieve that mission, and the vision is what it's going to look like when it's all taken care of. In terms of what we offer, coaching military families since 1958, we've covered that pretty well. Military experience, those
550 advisors I talked about 80% of them are former military or military spouses. I'm going to talk about the work we do with military spouses in a couple of minutes. So they really understand the military lifestyle and the challenges that come along with that. And we're one of only 2 companies that I know of that when our clients move, and our military clients move about every 2 to 3 years, we actually transfer the client from the local advisor that they're working with in the current duty station and move that to a new advisor at the new duty station so that sort of personal face-to-face interaction can continue. Face-to-face, we're big on that. We know we're in a virtual world and we get that, and through COVID, it's forced us to really engage virtually and try to figure out as we come out of COVID, what meetings best happen face-to-face and what meetings can you really successfully and effectively conduct virtually. So we're really trying to build a best of both worlds approach. But especially for the young military families, we think that face-to-face interaction is really critical. There's a trust aspect that comes from starting that relationship, and there's an accountability aspect that comes with it as well. And that coaching is real coaching. It's telling people not just what they want to hear, but what they need to hear. Because as we all know, for our military service members, there usually isn't a pot of gold at the end of the rainbow that's suddenly going to make them rich. They need to understand how to take what they have and make the most out of what they have. we always start with a financial plan. So we want to understand where are they today, where do they want to be 10, 20, 30 years from now. This is definitely not a get-rich-quick scheme. This is very fundamental, basic, long-term financial planning. And then we don't just help them build the plan, we actually help them implement that plan as well. And what we refer to as the 3 cornerstones. There's usually an insurance recommendation, an investment recommendation, and a banking or a savings recommendation as well. And I was talking to someone earlier who came up and shared his own story about his interaction with First Command. And he said his investment started with $25 a month. So we are not out chasing wealthy clients, right? And these days, our military members might start with $100 a month into a mutual fund. But $100 a month every month, and then as you get pay raises that come along pretty quickly in your early years of your military career, you start scraping off some of that pay raise and putting that into the market. It's not going to change overnight, but 20, 30 years later, it's not uncommon for our clients to have $1 million, $2 million, $3 million of investable assets, which is typically far more than they ever thought they would have in investments. An early career commitment, I'm going to talk a little specifics about that early career commitment. The first one I sort of alluded to is this budgetary counseling. Most of our young military families have no idea what to do with their money. They've never been taught what to do with money. They're getting a paycheck maybe for the first time in their lives. And one of the first things we look at when we visit military installations, this is no joke, we roll on to any installation, the first thing I look at is BMWs and jacked up F-150s, because that's where the money tends to go. And then you'll see a young service member walking down the street, and they're carrying a big screen TV, and his buddy's got the gaming console in hand, and they're headed to their apartment to hook that thing up. And there's a commercial out there that actually brags about, I got this system from all the credit card spending I did, and I accumulated all these points, and I was able to get this TV and gaming system for free. That's not free, right? That is not free at all. And in fact, we try to coach our clients away from those things and really live within their means and understand how important it is to start saving at a young age. So budgetary counseling is a big part of that, leveraging military pay and benefits. I almost defy you to find a military member that truly understands all the way their pay works and all their benefits work. And so they end up not being able to take full advantage of the benefits that they're provided and they richly deserve. And we want to make sure all those military pay and benefits get factored into that financial plan. Complementary financial planning while they're on active duty. We used to allow our advisors to charge a planning fee for just creating and delivering the financial plan to our military clients. And as a business model, there are a lot of fee-based financial planners out there, and it makes complete sense. But as we looked at that model, what we realized, especially for our younger military families, is it was a barrier to entry for a lot of those folks, because they wouldn't come in and pay even $200 for a financial plan because they don't have a lot of extra money to spend. And so we actually eliminated that about 7 or 8 years ago and said, if you're an active duty military family, you can come in and get the plan for free. So we'll sit down with you, understand what your goals and dreams are, build the plan, and then deliver the plan. And up until that point, there's no cost, no obligation. So if you want to walk away from that, it's fine to do that. If you want to implement that plan with some combination of insurance, investments, and/or banking, that's when the appropriate fees or commissions would be charged. And so it really gives them an opportunity to understand what a financial coach can do for you, the value of financial planning, introduces them to it, no cost, no obligation. And if and when they decide to move forward, that's when the fees or commissions would be charged. No minimum net worth requirement. You can tell when I tell you that there's $25 monthly investments or $100 monthly investments. We're not out chasing wealthy clients. We have a saying within the company that we don't chase wealth, we build it. And so we really like getting in there as early as we possibly can. And our goal is getting military families on a path to financial security and keeping military families on a path to financial security. We don't just, there was a time, Chip, you can back up, when people actually got out of the military, we used to terminate them as clients. Strange business model, I know. We thought better of that many, many years ago, and now we carry that relationship all the way through. So we help people through the early stages of their military career, and as that advances, then ultimately they're going to separate or retire from the military. We'll help them through their second career. And then they get to about age 55 or so when the concept of retirement becomes real and people start to get very nervous and anxious about, am I going to be able to afford to retire? Am I going to have to move back in with my kids? Am I outlive my money? And so we help them in those early retirement years and then through their financial and estate planning as well. And then ultimately, unfortunately, the clients pass away and then we help them distribute those assets as well. So we really try to take them kind of a cradle to grave approach, as early in their military careers we can get to them and try to help them through the rest of their lives. We don't have a lot of proprietary products at the company. On the banking side, we have a few, but when it comes to the insurance or investments, we're typically not manufacturing the mutual funds or the insurance policies that we use. We're partnering with a lot of well-known industry company. Fidelity is a big partner of ours, and Invesco and others. And on the insurance side, we use some folks locally and some not so local, but really try to pull the best of what's available in for our clients' benefit. And on the insurance side, used to be that people thought, well, if you're in the military, you must be a higher risk. It's not true. They tend to be incredibly healthy. They're well checked out. The death rate is actually lower in the military for many of those reasons. And so we're able to work with our partners and negotiate rates that really benefit our clients. And that's important because obviously they typically don't have a lot of extra money to spend. We're very involved in causes that matter to military families. We're heavily involved actually locally with the United Way of Tarrant County. I was told actually that Rotary helped fund the founding of the United Way of Tarrant County, if that's accurate. So I hope my history is correct. We have a First Command Educational Foundation, which shares the same name, obviously, as our company, but it's a completely separate 501c3 organization that provides financial literacy training to junior enlisted. We really have a hard time working with the junior enlisted at First Command. They're very much protected by the government. They literally have almost no money to invest, and it's hard for our advisors to work with them. And so we really try to get the educational foundation in there to get them started, and we pick them up when they promote to E5, and we're able to work with them from there. Project Sanctuary is an organization we got involved with years ago. They're headquartered out in Colorado. They do a lot of, I would call family healing. Military members come back from deployment. There's often PTSD they're dealing with. Finances might be a mess. The relationship is torn apart. And this group really puts those families back together. There's retreats. Our advisors volunteer for that. So there's a financial support that we provide from the company, but we handle all the financial training as part of these retreats that they do, and they have an incredible success rate. I think they've been around about 15 years now, and they've only had one suicide of any of the folks that have been through their program. And any of you that are familiar with military suicides, you know that's an incredibly low rate, and it's unfortunately something we're all trying to work on and improve. At the bottom, there's a listing of our military service relief organizations. We try to get involved with those, and they provide a lot of great assistance to military families in need. In times of crisis, one of the things I'm probably proudest about is First Command. And actually, let me go back to this too, because it plays into this. So we're as I said, we're a privately owned company. We're a subchapter S ESOP, and what that means for us at the corporate level is we don't pay corporate taxes. And so one of the things I'm really proud about the company, and this started obviously long before I ever showed up, was that we donate about 7% of our profits every year to these types of organizations. We get no tax benefit for it. The company just does it because we believe it's the right thing to do, and this is the market that we've chosen to serve. In terms of what we've done when things got tough, so we know that you have these threatened government shutdowns or government shutdowns that have happened. For a while, the military wasn't paid. When the government shut down, the military wouldn't get paid. So now they've changed that so the government shuts down, the DOD gets paid, but the Coast Guard is not part of the DOD, they're the Department of Homeland Security. So when the government shuts down, they run the risk of not being paid as well. So what we've done for them in the past is when the government shut down, we actually will advance to them. For any of our clients that are already set up on direct deposit, we will actually deposit the money into their account for them, so they're never going to miss a paycheck, and we do that with no interest charges. And when they start getting paid again, they just pay that loan off, and it's, as I said, 0% interest. So we don't want those folks missing out, because a lot of them, as you can imagine, are living paycheck to paycheck as it is, and they don't have the luxury of missing a check. A few years back, when the government shut down, we actually went to the Coast Guard Mutual Assistance. We gave them a $5 million interest-free unsecured line of credit. So if they had a need, they could dole that out, and then they would just pay us that back over time. Fortunately, they never had to tap into it because the government reopened again, and we never had to tap into that, but I was proud to see the bank step up and offer that to the Coast Guard. COVID outbreaks, natural disasters, when those things happen, people need access to credit. We step up. Sometimes they need to skip a payment or two on their credit cards they have with us. We allow that in different ways to help get the finances in their hands that they really need. Our clients, through the planning process and just the fact that they're in the military and they take their financial responsibilities seriously, we rarely have a default on any of our loans because these are people committed, to doing the right thing, paying those loans back. So they're a very low risk client, and they're just great clients to have because they're incredibly loyal as well. Proud of the company. We've been awarded, you see up here, year after year, military friendly company, military friendly employer. Trying to read a couple of these. Top 10 brand and a top 10 military-friendly spouse employer as well. I'm going to talk a little bit more about that in a second. One of the best places for working spouses. We won that award, I think, last year. And then just recently, one of the, out of a list of 100 most loved workplaces in the country, First Command came in at number 19. So something we're obviously extremely proud of as well. Military spouses. This is a big issue in the military. And if you're familiar with this, you'll know what a problem it is. Their military spouses, I think the stat on the slide is about 89% of the spouses make about 89% of the financial decisions in the family. If you talk to a military spouse, it's probably about 105% of the financial decisions are made by the spouses. And think about it, the military members are incredibly busy. Their ops tempo is incredibly high, and or they're off on deployment. And so a lot of times you find your military spouses are almost single parents, and they've got to handle everything by themselves or with their network. And so it puts them in a really tough position. So we do a lot of work of trying, when we meet and go through that financial planning process, we always want the spouse there, because inevitably the spouse is going to be making the decisions while the service member is deployed, and we need them to be involved and knowledgeable and educated. And so we do a lot of work on the front end to make sure that that happens. 77% say frequent relocations make it difficult to find employment. 63% feel military service causes underemployment. The stats vary, but around 26% to 30% of military spouses are either unemployed or underemployed. And the best way I can explain that is if you think of the typical life cycle of a military family, they're in a location for 2 to 3 years. We're getting ready to move. I'm the spouse. I quit my job. We move to a new location. I look for another job. I find one. I have an MBA. They're not hiring MBAs, so I take a job that, I'm employed, but I'm underemployed because I'm not in a career that really fits my credentials. I'm capable of doing more, but I took the job that I could get, right? So we're here for 2 more years. I quit my job. Now I'm unemployed again. I move to the new location, and we go through that year after year. And if those are 2 to 3 year stints, and a military career might be 20 years long, you're doing that at least 7 or 8 times through the course of a military career. So a lot of employers don't want to hire military spouses because they know they're leaving in 2 to 3 years. And when you look at their resume, it's kind of this patchwork quilt of different jobs they've had along the way. And what we're trying to do is put them in a position where they might work for a different First Command location through the course of that 20-year career, but the header on that resume is still First Command. They just did it in various locations, and they might have various responsibilities. And then the final stat that 59% say military service negatively affects their careers, and it's obviously easy to see why it does that. And so when you're dealing with military members who aren't making a lot of money, that second income is often critical to the family. And unfortunately, the spouses tend to be in and out of jobs every couple of years. So our vision for military spouses is to provide financial readiness and portable careers for our nation's military spouses. And I'll show you another even shorter video that gives you an idea of just kind of the critical role that military spouses play in getting their family to and settled in the new location. We're gonna need some sound on that one. No? You want me to narrate it? So here's what's going on, right? This girl's new. She went to a new school. Mom's at home, unpacked the stuff, and when their daughter came home, she's got everything in her room. And that's the life of a military family, right? It's, you know, you talk to kids that grew up in the military, and it was every 2 to 3 years they're off to a new school, they're meeting new friends, those sorts of things. And so the spouses not only have to take care of getting the family settled, then they have the responsibility of going out and finding a career as well. And so that's one of the things we're really working hard to address. And then finally, I'll just read you a quick letter that we got. And I get the number of emails and client letters we get at the company, it far exceeds any company I've ever worked for. But this one is interesting because it has a Rotary connection. It just says, my husband David and I are clients of First Command, and Jill Petrozinski is our financial advisor. David and Jill worked together in Rotary, and the relationship they built led us to First Command in entrusting our finances to her. Jill's knowledge is amazing. She truly understands her field. I, on the other hand, do not. But not once has she ignored me and just talked to my husband, who does grasp all the intricacies of investing. If I ask a question, she always takes the time to answer and break it down until I'm comfortable. I can't tell you how much I truly appreciate this. She's on top of things. We are confident she will attend to any inquiries we might have in a timely fashion. She remembers even when we forget and has the attention to detail that sometimes slips by us. As we have aged, lost parents, and seen our son mature, we understand the importance of financial planning. Jill has been and continues to be an invaluable guide, and her professionalism and dedication are much appreciated. Those are the kind of letters that I'm fortunate to receive pretty frequently from our clients, and so those are the folks taking care of the military. So thank you very much for your time.
Wow, what a powerful mission and such a worthy cause. Thank you for all you do for our military families. And now we have a couple of announcements here. We have program sponsorship. See your newscaster, Mark Maurer, if you would like to be a program sponsor. He does dual duties here. And memberships are due, so please see Aurora. She will be taking your payment. She has a note here that she turns into Guido for those members who don't pay, and she'll wait for you in the parking lot. After this meeting, there will be an International Service Committee meeting in the governor's room here on the 12th floor. And then we'll have a Veterans Committee meeting in the President's Conference Room on the 11th floor. And next week's program, I don't know if we have this title correct, but he used to be Dr. Stewart Flynn, founding dean of the TCU and UNTHSC School of Medicine. I think that is now simplified to just the TCU School of Medicine. I hope everybody stay warm. Have a great weekend. Yes.
I had a Red Badge person tell me they didn't know anybody can attend a Rotary in the Veterans Committee. You do not have to be a veteran to attend.
Okay, so see Don Click. Anybody that would like to attend the Veterans Committee meeting, see Don. Follow Don to the 11th floor and he will get you settled. You will be on the committee soon. We are adjourned.